Welcome to the opening whistle of the weekly recess. I'm Mitchell Lea alongside Connor VanDemark. Tommy Grant may be joining us later, having some technical difficulties right now. So, for the time being, it's a two-man show. Connor, how are you doing today? I, Wrong, incorrect. Where's the buzzer when you need
Doing
it?
well.
No, you can
No,
definitely
can't
complain.
play, can't complain
Whether
what's
you're a
going on
fan
here
of
in
the
New York.
Jets, whether you're a
So
fan of the Giants, not the Bills, not the Bills. Although, maybe next week. Who knows? Yes, we can definitely do some complaining, and we will do some of that here later. But I
the
don't
true New
think
York
that's
team,
where
the true New
we
York team
should
there.
start. I kind of feel bad because week 3 had a big score, and Tommy's not here to talk about it. Dolphins hung 70 on the
That's
Broncos,
true.
and I feel like that's where we should start. Maybe some people would start somewhere else, would go with some of the upsets, some teams pulling out even, I don't want to say more lopsided wins because when you put up 70 and you win by 50, that's the most lopsided game. But there were a lot of routes in week 3. Dolphins putting up 70 is definitely the one that catches my attention. The Dolphins always seem to be just dominant in Miami, at least in the Tua Mike McDaniel era, when it's still kind of hot in Miami and you get those thermometers out on the field and it's always like 115 degrees and the other teams just cramping up and having a real hard time and the Dolphins are just like, I'd be practicing this every day. And the Dolphins always seem to be at their best then. So let me ask you the question that I don't think is being asked enough. Is this sustainable? Obviously not scoring 70 a game. That's not sustainable at all. But just the pace that they're on.
There was one stat that really piqued my interest that's been going around different social media sites is how explosive they are. Because they're, I remember correctly, the out of the
Yeah.
top highest speeds that players had in a game, four of the top five
Yeah,
were all
he changed
Miami
his
Dolphins. It
pronunciation.
was Tyreek Hill that had one in week one. There was Devon Achan. I think that's the new pronunciation he wants to go with. Yeah, Achan. He had one this week, which is nice to see him get actually
He's
get
always
some
had the
work now
juice.
because
He's
he
like
was
Deshaun
explosive in
Jackson.
college. Mostert was another one, which is weird to see a older running back to still put that up.
There's
And
another one that was just like the most like I don't
yeah,
want to
that's a
say
pretty
middle
good
finger to
comp to him.
Jets fans, but at
And
the end of the
I
game
think
there was a
two were
bomb
Mostert
from
and two were
Mike White
Tyreek Hill out of the
to whatever Robbie Anderson is calling himself this week, and he hit one of the top speeds, and he was cut by the Dolphins, put on the practice squad, and only called up because Jalen Waddle was still in the concussion protocol. And he caught it like a 75-yard touchdown because the Broncos were just getting absolutely demolished. And you can't even put this on Russell Wilson.
yeah.
I think this comes down to roster construction, which the GM, George Patton, I think, is it George Patton? Or
No.
is that does he have the same name as the general? Because I feel like that's his name. Yeah, it's George Patton. That's his name. Yeah. I thought well, it's also the general manager of the Denver
I'm
Broncos.
not
Not living up to your
sure.
namesake, buddy.
No, no. The general definitely is George Patton. So hold on. So fun fact is that
Why?
like way back
Why?
back when AIM existed, my AIM handle was Gen Patton 89 because I was a history nerd, man. I was
But I don't really think you can blame
deep in
Russ.
the weeds on that,
The
like World
offense has
War
been
II and all that
it hasn't
stuff.
been
And I just
incredible,
no, I just thought it's
but
funny bringing
when
that
you
up.
give up 70, you didn't lose because of the offense. Because asking any offense to
No,
keep
you
up with
can't.
that is just impossible. And the Dolphins are out here running track meets on people. It's not even football anymore. It's just get the ball and go.
And and the funny thing, I think the funny thing too is that with the Broncos, they've always been considered as a staunch defensive team too. Like at least in the past, let's say 3 years, they've always been a go-to of like, keeping the scores low scoring, especially last year where like majority of the games they held opponents below 27 points, and the offense wasn't clicking. And it's weird to see them get their complete doors
The
blown off the
Dolphins also
hinges,
known for being more of
where
a
the
passing
Dolphins were
team
just so explosive that
with
they just couldn't
Tua,
they just couldn't
Tyreek,
handle it.
Jalen Waddle. They ran for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns. They threw for 376 yards and 5 touchdowns. Those are absurd because I remember when Urban Meyer said for the Jaguars, when he was the head coach there for a cup of coffee, he
That's
said
just
that
an
he wanted
insane
to
number.
run for and throw for 250 yards in each game. And everyone just looked at him like that's not something that's going to happen. No. You can throw for that, fine, but you're not running for that. The Dolphins didn't do that at 250. They did it at
It's not college
350
football.
on both rushing and passing with 5 touchdowns. They averaged 8 yards a carry. I just can't. It's the best offense, or maybe the worst defense. Pick your poison that I've ever seen because it's the most points that have been put up by an NFL team in a game in my lifetime. 70-20, and they could have gone for the record for most points scored in a game, but they just decided, nah. Why? Kick the field goal, man. How many times are you gonna get to say we scored the most points ever in a game? It's not like it's not like you're putting anybody at risk as far as like, oh, you're giving people more carries. They're trying to break like
Yeah.
a rushing record or something, they might get hurt. No, you're just kicking a field goal. Yeah, and the backups are rolling. Yeah. God, I miss Mike
And plus,
White.
like you already have your backups in. Like, no, Mike White's already tearing him up, and they're rolling over him too. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I miss him too. I definitely do. We'll get to that later with the new signing with the Jets too. Um, but like I think it was a mix of like the Broncos just being just like momentum wise too. Like your morale of your team once you let up
Yeah,
was it 35
usually,
points in the
the way
first
that it is
half,
with a lot of these
and then
games,
when the second
especially
half
the way
rolls
that
around, you're
Kansas
still
City
getting
did
your
it,
stomped
you score
around.
a lot in the
Like,
first, you take your foot off the gas. Or the
yeah, I
But
think
the point
Tommy
that I'm
might be
I'm
good.
making with
You know,
Miami is,
he
yeah,
could hop on.
they were never
It'd be nice to get
allowed
his
to
speed
slow
offense.
down. 14 points in the first, 21 in the second, 14 in the third, 21 in the fourth. It was consistent. 14 in the odd number quarters, 21 in the even number quarters. It was clean.
I never I never see that before in a box score. I literally I was looking at the
It's
ESPN like all the pages and the box scores, and I saw them like 14-21, 14-21. I'm like, what is
it's not
this?
just a
Like
bunch of
that's just
pixels and
wild.
dots.
And then you have hey, oh
I'm
hey,
back.
we can
I'm
actually see
alive,
you this
We're
time,
motherfucker.
talking
Tommy. Look
about
at
your
this.
Miami Dolphins.
Oh, my beautiful
All right,
fins.
yeah, floor
What a
We were
floor
week
talking
floor is
they
about
yours.
the
Yeah,
had.
they
Dolphins.
scored more points than the Jets will this season.
Instant reaction is I didn't even get to watch the game. I was
Instant reaction,
busy with
go.
my daughter, and I was very disappointed. But I looked at my phone and went, "Holy shit, that can't be the right score." And I did some further research and saw it was, and saw the highlights, and just sat there in amazement. Touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, and I was like, "The Dolphins are here. This might be their year," and I am fucking
Well, what
all
I was
for it.
bringing up to Connor is this seems to be what happens, at least in the Tua Mike McDaniel era, when the weather is hot and they have that big thermometer on the field saying it's 115 degrees out here. at field level. And the opponents are cramping up. The Dolphins are just rolling. But when the weather starts to get a little bit colder, and I know it's not going to get like, it's not the frozen tundra down there in Miami, but where you don't have as much of a like distinct advantage of it being that hot. Miami always tends to play better when it's really hot, and that's when they're the best. At least last year. I wonder if they can ride the momentum out into the playoffs better than they did last year. I know a lot of that has to do with just Tua staying healthy.
It's purely Tua. I mean, again, there's that chance he could go down in a week or two, and we might just be riding the high of Tua being amazing. But after that last game, I mean, the Broncos. I mean, there's that one image of just all the Broncos defensemen just on the ground, and I thought that was the funniest thing. And there was no chance. They just got rolled over, literally, by the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
The Bills. I think have a chance. I think they'll put up a fight against Miami, but the Broncos,
Oh,
it
I
was
think
just
the
a
Bill,
slaughter.
and I'll get to the Bills here in a second. I think the Bills are favored by 2.5. It's in Buffalo, and I think Buffalo does win that game. And I think it's any team that scores over
It'll be
60.
close.
It's only happened like 5 or 6 times, but they've all lost against the spread the next week. And the Dolphins are 2.5 point underdogs. So that might be a
Yeah, I did that. I did look that up too. That there have been only 3 games in NFL history where they've hit 70 points,
yeah.
and Miami's tied for that
And both
second
of those
place.
games were in like the
I
50s or
don't remember.
something.
Yes, they were very old games, so I was impressed. That's another record that Miami almost clinched, but they just needed 3 more points.
Let's talk about those Bills. There's a lot of routes in week 3 to get to. And the Bills taking down the Commanders, handing them their first loss 37-3 in Washington is certainly one of them. Josh Allen's definitely seeming to be back on track after just a charitable gift of a win presented to the New York Jets. I guess he felt bad that Rodgers got hurt because he seriously just stunk up the joint in that game. But since then, he's been Josh Allen that we've grown to love watching the last 3, 4 years of football. And the Bills, when Josh Allen is playing like that, and they're running the ball a lot better than they ever have with Josh Allen. James Cook is top 5 in rushing yards. The Bills have never had anything like that with Josh Allen there. Usually they're at the very bottom if Josh Allen isn't leading the team in rushing himself. So I would not be taking the Bills lightly if I was in the AFC.
Yeah, absolutely not. I don't know all the fancy stats and everything, but the Bills have definitely been putting up a good fight this year, and they were great last year. So they're always kind of that oddball team. They're either really good or they're just really bad. And I think the
Well, it
past 2 years
depends on
they've been
what
pretty good.
version of Josh Allen comes out. Because sometimes
Yeah,
Josh Allen just
so far,
decides, I can throw the ball over them, their mountains, so I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter if there's 16 defenders there and none of my receivers. I've got a big arm, I'm going to use it. Don't do that and we'll be fine.
Yeah, they definitely ran all over Washington. Like 168 combined yards. No, they. It's nice to have James Cook is
Yes,
the
he
real
is, which
deal.
means he is
It's in
not
the bloodline,
washed
obviously,
like
for
Dalvin
him.
is.
No, he's the younger brother of Dalvin, remember correctly? Um, yes.
Yes.
Like even like Allen's line doesn't look pretty, but he played a good game. Like he made the right throws. He saw the right options, made the proper audibles, and like he did what he had to do. And he didn't have to do much because like
Well,
the
they're still
Commanders,
2-1.
that's been a team that I had higher hopes for them personally. So
Oh.
I understand that, but their offense is like as a fantasy owner right now who owns Jahan Dotson, I expected much more from this team. Like Brian Robinson, I love the guy. He's been playing fantastic. But to me, he's their only real threat right now because your big players, Terry McLaurin and
No.
Dotson and even Gibson, who should have the explosiveness that you expect
Taylor
from him.
Heineke and Carson
You're not
Wentz.
seeing that from them. And who were the quarterbacks last year for Commanders? It was Heineke, and who was the other one? That's right, it was Wentz. I knew it was one of the old guys. Like the big difference that I've seen between Howell and the other two is that at least what
Which is weird
affecting
because Howell can
Scary
throw
Terry
it.
and John Dotson is that
I really
throwing the
liked
ball
Howell
deep
coming out of
anymore.
UNC. I
I
thought
think
that
there's
everyone
only
was comparing him to Baker, and I thought I think he's more
yeah,
like
and
if he got into the right system,
I'm
he could be like a lesser version of Justin Herbert. Yeah.
that's perfectly fine, and that's what I would take that in a heartbeat for this team. It's just that I'm not seeing that right now, and my question is it a him thing or a coordinator thing? And no, like I think the compared to the Heineke and Wentz, like he's only thrown like I think four
Well, I'll tell
balls
you
so
what the
far. I think
issue
it's like
is.
4 or 6 balls that
Can't
went
throw
for
it
20
deep
yards
if they're not
plus
giving you time to
alone in
throw.
his
And
first
this
three
man was
games.
sacked
That's it.
9 times.
Like
So, and I think that that's also taking away some of that where
that is very
Howell
true,
can
and
throw. He does have a good
that's
deep
also
ball.
a
He
factor
can
for it
throw a
too.
good deep ball, but you can't throw a good deep ball if you're on the ground. At least maybe you could, but it won't matter because you're on the ground and plays over. But I'm curious to see what happens with Howell moving forward. I do like him, and I hope they give him the whole
Yeah,
season to learn. But I also hope they can keep him healthy and upright because taking 9 sacks a game, you're gonna get him killed. No.
like you get the Eagles next week, which is not a great matchup for them. I know they've been weak in secondary, but like he's going to get pass rush pretty well because their front four is strong as hell. And then at least you have the Bears next, which is fine. Like no, that's a good matchup. The Falcons D has been good, which has definitely been one of my shockers this year. And then you get the Giants, so there's at least a window for him to at least recorrect before he faces the Eagles and Patriots.
All right.
So that 3
Another
weeks,
big
hopefully he
blowout.
can like
Chiefs
kind of
41,
fix the
Bears
ship.
10.
But
And this was a bigger blowout than the score indicates because the Bears scored all 10 points in the fourth quarter. My whole Justin Fields is just Zach Wilson with XP. It just keeps aging better by the day because this man, and I truly believe this, Zach Wilson is playing better than Justin Fields right now. I truly believe that. Justin Fields cannot read a defense and just walks into sacks. Zach Wilson does the exact same thing, but Zach Wilson, the best thing that he did against New England was he played a turnover-free brand of football. I feel like he's terrified to not to turn the ball over to where he can't make a decision. Justin Fields just plain can't read a defense at all. And Chicago is probably going to move off of basically everybody in that building after this season. And they're going to have a really good chance to get Caleb Williams because they not only have their pick, but they have the Panthers pick, and the Panthers are 0-3 as well.
it's
I would say poor DJ Moore, man. He's
it's that
everywhere
DJ
he's
Moore
gone.
curse.
You know it's bad when
The Bears
your
can't get off
best
the road right.
quarterback might have been Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I feel bad for him.
The corpse of Cam Newton, maybe. Teddy Bridgewater. When Teddy Bridgewater was there, they aired it out a bit with him and whatever the hell Robbie Anderson was calling himself when he was in Carolina for that year and a half or so. But that's the best he got. And, I'm sad that he couldn't go somewhere better. The Chiefs, I'm not going to do the whole let's talk about Taylor Swift the whole time during this or
Oh,
make
come on.
make
Why
any
not? That
puns.
was the highlight of the
Um,
game.
it, you, you know,
Are there no
I am
Swifters
a
out
big Taylor
there?
Swift fan, but the thing is, I'm just tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of hearing about it. It's the same. Like I'm tired of seeing
Well,
Deion Sanders everywhere I go with college football. I'm tired of seeing
hey,
Taylor
I
Swift
hate to
everywhere I
break to you,
go,
but
and I love them
Tay
both.
Tay is here to
But
stay.
I just need a break from you both.
Tay Tay is here to stay, and you got to
Oh
get
no, I've
used
been
to
used
it.
to Taylor Swift for 16 years now, and
Yeah.
I've grown and adjusted to her different forms, and this will not be her final form. But Kansas City Chiefs, man, this game didn't really teach me
I
much
think I've
about
seen
them.
more news. I've seen more news about Taylor Swift being at this game than the fact that the Chiefs had a major blowout at this game. Like,
Well, because the
I
Bears had
thought that was
such a
pretty funny.
legendarily awful week that this is kind of what
Yeah.
everyone expected to happen. The fact that it wasn't like Chiefs minus 22.5, which they would have covered comfortably, is more the story here. I'm not taking away that the Chiefs are, yeah, Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know. Just the Bears are just so bad that any team that plays against them, like the Cardinals, you get the sense that they're trying. They want to win. Other bad teams, the Panthers, the Vikings, they want to win. The Broncos, they'll have some big plays. They won't play defense, but their offense will have some big play. Marvin Mims, when Sean Payton lets him play the 4 plays that he gets, he'll have 2 big touchdowns, and then Sean Payton will inexplicably sit him down. But the Bears are the one team where it just feels like it's not even October, and the season is like not even like hypothetically, it is done, and everyone has lost their jobs. Like, say what you will about the Jets when things went downhill after the Rodgers injury, the defense is still playing. Jets defense is still playing. Garrett Wilson's still trying to make plays.
Their defense is still playing good, but do you think next weekend they can handle the Taylor Swift effect?
The Taylor Swift effect.
Because T Swift's going to be.
Is Taylor Swift taking the field?
That is what
Can Taylor
that is
Swift
what
play
they are
quarterback?
calling it.
That's my question. Can Taylor Swift play quarterback?
They are calling it the Taylor Swift effect. Listen. There have been reports that there's a 400% spike in Kelce's jersey sales. The podcast that he's on is now number
It was
one.
already number one.
The amount of well, it's even higher
it's
now.
Number -3.
There has been a 3-time increase in Chiefs ticket searches on StubHub. People are going just in the hopes to see Taylor Swift.
That's idiotic.
This is going
let me
to
go to a
boost.
Chiefs game so I can maybe see Taylor Swift. Possibly.
That is Swift Nation for you.
God.
That's Swift Nation.
I mean, I love
People
Taylor
can't handle
Swift, but if
Swift.
you do that, you are a loser.
Hey,
and this is coming from somebody who's going to see her concert tour movie thing. Like I'm very curious to see that.
You as a Jets fan are going to support Taylor Swift, whose team is going to destroy yours probably.
This
next week?
Taylor. No, it's not her team. She's no ownership stake. She's not playing in the game.
It is her team now. Unofficially, it is her team now.
Man.
Argue with any.
She's going with Travis Kelce to get to Jason Kelce, who's on the Eagles, which is the actual team she likes.
Ooh, hot take.
Taylor Swift's playing the long game here. She's always got schemes going.
So are we anticipating that drama to happen this season? Could that be the drama that defeats the NFL this year? Is the Kelce brother love triangle?
No. It's not Travis. No, it's just a matter of when she switches up mid-season and is like, all right, Joe Burrow's healthy. Let's do that now. So.
All right.
It's impressive.
Yes.
You have to say, though, the following of her is insane. because the fact that like the amount of stuff like this recently with her there was like some puzzle thing she was doing and like
Yeah.
she got like 150,000
There you
people
go.
to sign up to vote for this upcoming
Can
election
she
through
use her
that thing.
after this game? Of course,
That
I understand
is
she wants
like
Kelsey and the Chiefs to win, but after
that's
this game,
insane.
she is going to
Like,
watch Zach Wilson play and just
and
be like, "I need to I need to get the Jets a new quarterback. Let's get the Swifties
I
on it."
I think the Taylor
She's going to
the
hold
Tay
tryouts.
effect will now be part. No, this will become a part of the NFL draft. Whatever team gets Tay on their side is going to boost sales. It's going to be revenue for them. Whoever has Taylor on their side is going to get a nice big cash inflow because everybody's going to be buying those jerseys. Everybody's been
Well,
buying
it's
those
already
tickets.
happened. It's the Chiefs, and yeah, the Chiefs definitely needed
It's
more good
yeah.
things. They didn't have
Well,
enough.
it's going to get passed. It's going to get passed around. There's going to be a big battle. People are going to want Tay on their side because they've already seen what the Taylor Swift effect can have for the Chiefs.
Well,
It's a matter of time. It's a matter of
speaking
time.
of people with
Back
massive
to football.
followings that maybe definitely aren't as good. Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns with a big win over the Tennessee Titans, 27-3. Yeah, the anti Taylor Swift, I guess.
oh god,
Um,
He
defense was
cannot be
great for the
named.
Browns once again, who just continue to put the clamps on every single team they play. It might be a long night for Lamar and the Ravens next week, but this was the first time since he took the field in Cleveland. Despite that one horrible play where he was getting sacked and then he just threw it 9 yards behind him to Elijah Moore, who was not expecting Deshaun Watson to do something that's stupid. Watson looked like an NFL quarterback and a good one at that. Maybe not quite the guy that was in Houston, but he played well. And if the Browns are going to get that version of Deshaun Watson, they can go far in the playoffs.
I mean, just looking at the stats alone, I mean, Tennessee didn't even break 100 yards. The Browns held them. So he could have a good season. He had a good game. He had 289 yards just himself.
They weren't ever able to
So-
get the ground game going the way that they usually do with Chubb, but with the way again, you said it, Tennessee didn't even crack 100. Wow, they didn't crack 100 yards as a team. That's insane.
Yeah. According to this, they only had 94 combined yards between
Wow.
passing and rushing. That's
Uh,
sad.
But the Browns have had a way of making every team look like the Jets offensively. And it's been really impressive. If I was a Browns fan, I would be beating my chest hard because this is going to be a team that no one wants to see in the playoffs. No one wants to play that defense, and no one wants to, what if we get Texans Deshaun? Well, if you get Texans Deshaun in that defense, you have a 0% chance of winning. It's not happening.
And keep in mind too with Deshaun, like
Yeah,
the end of last season was him actually shaking off rust and haven't played football in a year and a half prior. So like him actually playing with the team and getting acclimated with his weapons and actual gameplay is a big factor to it. And Amari Cooper is just being the steady. I won't say steady. He wasn't steady last year, but like, he's been steady this year, which is a weird thing to see. Him putting up, being the de facto wide receiver one, and putting up week after week, 80+ yards, and I think he had a touchdown every single game. And he's just been great for them, and it's nice to see him actually have that production from them, and also not having Chubb with his injury that he had. No, they didn't run the ball on Tennessee, which I'm not surprised about, but on the flip side, it definitely shows that they're not just so focused on running that they can't beat you in other ways.
yeah, no,
And they proved that with the
100%.
Titans because their run defense is one of the best in the league, and they still
I'm
solved that.
very intrigued by the Browns deep. I think they're a team that, like I mentioned, the Dolphins, how maybe when the weather gets colder, I might not be as high on them. We'll see, of course. A lot depends on Tua, as we mentioned. Browns, I think, are just going to get better as the year goes on. The type of game that they play, and it sucks that Chubb got hurt because if Nick Chubb was healthy, I really think the Browns would be like a team I'd pick to win the Super Bowl. With the way they've been playing defense, but without that, I think I don't want to say they have a cap because their offensive line is still really good that almost anybody could run through. I mean, the Titans have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. They might have the top run defense in the NFL through the first 3 weeks. That run game will be interesting to watch, but I'm keeping my eye on Cleveland. They're not going away. Connor, what game caught your eye this weekend?
Nope, not at all.
For week 3.
For this weekend, the one that for week 3. So the one that I saw that was intriguing was the battle for
0-3.
0-3.
That's a great name.
Which is the Chargers and the Vikings. And because
Playoff
they were
teams from
both
last year.
because they were both teams that had high hopes coming to the season. They're both playoff teams. The Vikings were a big question mark because of the fact that they won so many one-score games last year. Like, were they for real? And it isn't like the Vikings were blown out of their first 2 games either. Like, the Eagle game, like, they kept it quote-unquote close, even though the Eagles did control that game, and they lost the Bucks by 3 points. So, like, it was more so the question, like, are they falling back to, like, were they regressing back to the mean of they're just a team where you flip a coin and you don't know what's going to happen? And last year was all heads, and now it's going all tails for them. And the Chargers on the flip side was, can they get their act going with, sucks that Mike Williams is now out for us to see with the ACL tear, and Eckler was hurt, and Josh Kelly was still
Herbert's
a
a top
non-factor
5
this game,
quarterback in
but
the NFL.
it didn't matter,
and I think
because Herbert kept finding Keenan Allen, and he just kept scoring.
If you just
But
take
Keenan had,
away, because everyone wants to attribute, quarterback wins. I think Herbert's better than Burrow. I really do. I think Herbert's just in a spot where he has to fight his defense sometimes, and he has to fight his coach. He's never had a good coach. You can make a case that the same is true for Burrow, but if you said, hey, Mitchell, you've got a game to win, you've got these 2 guys, I'm taking Herbert over Burrow. They're both fantastic, though, but Herbert just pinpoint downfield accuracy. I loved watching him play against Minnesota. Him and Keenan Allen had just they could have. It was 18 receptions, 215 yards for Keenan Allen, and if they wanted to, they could have gone for 350. Yeah.
Yep.
Can Keenan Allen play for the Jets? We'll take him.
And Keenan Allen had a 49
We'll take him. Hey,
pass,
starting
too.
quarterback Keenan
Don't forget
Allen,
that.
100%. Tommy, anything from week 3 jump out at you?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, aside from my beautiful Dolphins' incredible win, I was actually watching the Pats Jets game because I was interested to see who was going to come out on top for that one. Because not to crap on the Jets, I'll be nice to them this week, but
I'm not going to be.
The Pats and the Jets this season are kind of competing for last place in the AFC East.
They're not kind of competing for it. They are competing for it.
Yeah. But I was actually kind of rooting for Jets, hoping they would take it, and they were holding on, but it just didn't go their way. So that was kind of what I was watching this weekend, and that's also because that was one of the few games I was able to watch.
I sat here and I said, Zach Wilson, not your fault. Offensive line had nothing going on. Defense couldn't get off the field. Week 3, man, you got to do something. You have to do something.
And it was kind of surprising too because of how close of a game it was score-wise. I was simply surprised at the fact it was such a
Okay.
close game score wise, but in terms of stats, I mean, the Pats dominated the Jets. I mean, there was nothing that the Jets came close to in this game.
Well, the thing that the Pats did is they were able to win the field position battle. They were able. The Jets played a very bend
Yep.
don't break style of defense, especially in the first 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, the Jets kind of clamped down a bit, and they got the ball
Yep.
back to Zach, and Zach proceeded to piss down his leg. But the Patriots' offense is just such a meh unit, and they had one big play, a broken coverage, but apart from that, they're able to run the ball for 4 or 5 yards a pop. Mac Jones, whatever. He just wasn't abysmal like Zach Wilson was. And the Jets, the thing that really pisses
Yep.
me off about the Jets, somehow even more than Zach Wilson, was the fact that they ran the ball 22 times for 38 yards. If you want Zach
Yeah.
Wilson to have any, it was constantly 2nd and 10, 3rd and 9 type situations. And
Yeah.
Zach Wilson's not going to win that way. He's not going to. He's a bum. It is what it is, but he's a bum. He's a bum with some talent, but he's got no confidence, and he's certainly not going to make the play on 3rd and 9 because he's got it drilled into his head. Don't throw an interception, so he's going to hold on to the ball for as long as possible, and he's going to not trust his reads, and he's going to just throw it out of bounds, or he's going to take the check down on 4th and 10 for 2 yards because he doesn't want to throw an interception and get booed out of the stadium. But because you do that and you pass up open receivers because you don't trust your reads, because you don't want to get booed out of the stadium, you get booed out of the stadium because you take a 2 yard check down on 4th and 10. It's frustrating.
Oh, we can hear.
Mitchell, off the top,
I'm going to go with
off the
2.
top of your head, out of 14 third down attempts, how many did they complete?
They could, and I bet that the
Dead
average
on.
distance was a little over 8.5 yards.
It's that bad.
That I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like they were always in 3rd and long because they couldn't run the ball at all. Because they always tried to run the ball into loaded boxes on 1st down. The Patriots know, every team's going to know, hey, they're going to run the ball on 1st down. And that's what they did. And they ran it badly.
Yep.
And they were set up behind the sticks. And Trevor Siemian's going to come in. He's going to be on the practice squad, and he's better than Tim Boyle. So he will be QB2. And he doesn't have the physical abilities of Zach Wilson, but he has the mental capacity of any mental capacity. So he will be on the field at some point this year because Zach Wilson is going to drive the locker room insane. And if Robert Saleh continues to be a Zach Wilson loyalist, then he's going to lose his job. Because he's going to lose this locker room, he's going to lose the season, he's going to lose the fans. And he's going to lose ownership. This is not the season that he was planning on. It was like, hey, we got so much of this team in a perfect position. We just need someone to come in. Great. We got him. We got Aaron Rodgers. And then it just all came apart so quickly. I really don't want to talk about this much more.
We all hear your pain, Mitchell. We understand.
It's so frustrating. I hate it so much.
I'll say this too. Like, it's kind of funny.
There's always next
but
season.
this was supposed to be that next season.
Because, like,
yeah, but the thing is, when you're a head coach,
and Saleh's a defensive coach,
everything's on you.
His
You can't just be the defensive guy. I'm sorry, that does not. I understand that you have a preference, but if you're a defensive coach, ultimately that means you understand offenses really well to the point where you can neutralize and contain and stop. You understand offenses. So it's not a matter of, oh, he just knows defense, because you can't really just be one or the other. Which is why I was one of the one people that was like, Matt Patricia is offensive coordinator. I mean, I'm surprised we don't see more people kind of flip flopping, because, I mean, ultimately, some guys might have better designs for one or the other. I mean, Matt Patricia's just a dumbass, so it didn't really work one way or the other. Because let's face it, Bill Belichick was the architect behind any Patriots defense. It wasn't Patricia. We're seeing that now. There were a few upsets that really caught my eye. Texans 37, Jaguars 27.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud looks phenomenal. I said it last week. The only way we're gonna be able to really accurately scout Stroud in his rookie season is if he looks phenomenal, and so far he does. So the Texans look to have gotten it right with him. I still think they're a bad team overall, and I think we need to pump the brakes on the Jaguars a little bit. I just don't know who else in the AFC South could possibly win that division. Although the Colts, if they keep running the ball the way they're running the ball, and they play, Gardner Minshew, that's the guy I wanted for the Jets. But now that Richardson's hurt, and, I think they're going to be a little less likely to trade him now. They go into Baltimore. They win. Baltimore's injured to hell and back. But the Colts are just a strange team to watch, because you don't look at them and go, yeah, that's a real, oh, they don't really have too many weaknesses outside of the secondary. Their secondary's not great, but if they could get pressure on the quarterback, and oftentimes they do, then they can kind of neutralize that just a little bit. And their offensive line is solid enough. They can run the ball. And Michael Pittman's been one of the best receivers in the NFL so far this year.
The fact that
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, who is still holding out, and I believe just recently the report is like, I don't want to play for the Colts. And seeing Zach Moss step up, and he ran all over the Ravens. Like, that game was popping up multiple times of Zach Moss breaking up 10-yard run, 10-yard run, just one after another. And I couldn't believe how much that they just couldn't, I know the Ravens defense has injuries, but he looked good. And I was like, Zach Moss is he's not a highly touted college running back at all. Back, and even now he is, remember correct, he is an older running back.
He came out the same year as Taylor.
Let's see. He's 25, so I guess he's on the younger side. But the thing is, he's not had the pedigree.
Zach Moss was like a third-round pick.
JT is he is a top tier.
He just wasn't really ever given the reins. They went from Singletary
third
just
round
kind of
pick
straight
for
to
Buffalo.
Cook.
I have it up here. But it's been great to see him just take it and run, and he's been impressing me definitely. The Jaguars, that I'm shocked.
He hasn't had as many issues. I never bought into the Trevor Lawrence is a top 5 quarterback right now thing that a lot of people are trying to push. But he's not been the problem. He's just not the elite level guy right now that a lot of people have already put him as. They're just bad in the trenches, man. They're bad on the offensive line, and they get no pressure on quarterbacks, which is odd considering that they have Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. But they just, and the receiver, Calvin really had a really bad game. Kirk's had a meh start to the season.
And the receivers are yep. They're dropping balls, and it's overall everything is kind of sputtering for them, and things don't get easier with a good Falcons team and a Bills team followed up by them. And even the Colts, like the Colts looking good. And it's not going to be easy their next, 6 games? Falcons,
It's
Bills,
winnable
Colts,
games,
all at
but it
home,
could
then
also
at
get away
Saints,
from you
at
to the point
Steelers,
where
home
after that
against the
stretch, we
49ers.
could very well be
That
talking
ain't
about the
easy.
AFC South being up in the air. And that's not something Jacksonville really expected this
Yeah.
year. They kind of thought, all right, maybe we can make a run at the 1 seed. Maybe we're not as good as the Chiefs or the Bills or the Bengals, but our division is certainly weaker. If we just take care of our lesser competition, maybe we can be a 1 seed, a 2 seed, and see what we can do with this. But at this rate, and I do still think the Jaguars win the AFC South. That's still comfortably my pick. But you've got to be a little bit concerned with just the lack of toughness the team has shown so far. I'd say more
But
like
are they going to win the
9,
NFC
8.
South with like
You
a
know, I don't think they have a
7
losing record
or
and win it
was
like
it
they
7
did
and 10
last year.
record, 8 or 8
And
and
then
9?
yeah, they already lost a home game to Houston.
Because the schedule's not that easy. Like they have their own in conference, but like they're lost. Like yeah, and any
That was supposed to
divisional
be the
games
easiest
in
game
their
on
own
their
right
schedule.
are
Home to the
tough battles.
Texans.
Like the Titans, they gotta run the ball on the
It's-
And
Titans.
they
play out.
got absolutely creamed. They lost by 20.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a rough one.
Yeah, this is a rough year to
Yeah, there's
go
no
through
slouches in that division.
So speaking of AFC
North
North,
for them because they have
Mitchell
Steelers,
and
the
Connor, who do
Bengals,
you
the
think's
Browns,
going
the
to come out
Ravens.
top on that? Because Steelers, Raven, Browns are all having fairly good
I'm
seasons
taking
so
Cleveland.
far.
I'm still on Cleveland. Cincinnati, I just
Oh,
Burrow still looked bad. I know they beat the Rams, but he did not play well in that game. That was just a thoroughly unimpressive win.
No.
And then the Ravens, everyone's hurt all the time. Everyone's hurt all the time. I don't believe in the receiving core except for Andrews and Flowers is good, but I still need to see them push the ball more. They didn't do that as much against the Colts. And
Okay.
yeah, the Browns, just with the way they've been playing defense, if they could just get the level of play they got
the
against the
Browns in the
Titans
driver's
from
seat.
Watson, they don't need him to be Superman like he was in Houston. They can just get decent quarterback or good quarterback. The Browns are going to be a team that could get to the Super Bowl.
So are we all on Team Browns right
Unfortunately.
now?
Although I will add, I had put Kenny Pickett in the shit box.
Also,
I got to take him out of it because he started the year against the Browns and the 49ers. And those might be the two best defenses in the league. So then he gets the Raiders and he plays really well. So I want to see what he's going to do against an average defense. Because the Raiders aren't a particularly good defense. They've got the Texans next week and then the Ravens. I'm curious to see how he does over the next 2 games. Because he started off terribly. But he kind of got things back up against the Raiders.
that's definitely an interesting matchup.
I kept trying to bring that up. I was waiting. Every time I would try to bring that up, it was always Tommy who'd come around. He'd be like, "Well, if Taylor Swift is playing quarterback for the Chiefs," and I'm like, "She's not going to be playing quarterback for the Chiefs."
Don't insult Tay Tay.
Well,
Don't insult
I
Tay
will.
Tay. It's not her fault.
Honestly, I would talk about the Cardinals and Red Bay because Josh Dobbs looked good, and he overall that team, they ran all over the Cowboys. Like Josh Connor was going slicing him up left and right. Josh Dobbs was making good passes and also reading your defense well. And
That was not
like,
the
I'm
same
not
Cowboys
surprised the
defense.
Cowboys didn't put a spy on him.
You
But he
cannot tell
ran
me
for
that's
some,
the
there
same
was multiple
Cowboys
plays he ran for,
defense
like,
I saw the
15
last
yards.
2 weeks. This was a team that bought into their own hype and thought they could kind of loaf it in a game because they were playing the Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to play hard. Who knows why they're playing hard? But they're on the field, so they're going to play for their coach. They're going to play for themselves. They're going to play for the fans. They're going to give an effort. They've given an effort in every game they've been in. So kudos to the Arizona Cardinals, who have by far the least talent in the NFL. But again,
The least talent, but they were effective with what they had. Because if you look at the
Chicago.
stats, Cowboys had more.
I was saying Chicago, infinitely more talent, especially on the offensive end, than Arizona. But Arizona's making something happen, whereas Chicago is just
clearly
completely uninterested in the game of football, it seems, half the time. And Josh Dobbs being decisive, making good choices on when to run the ball, as opposed to just running with it like Justin Fields, because he has no idea what he's doing out there.
And then to tie in with that, I heard a funny story came to my timeline where
I saw that.
there were no Josh Dobbs
Really?
jerseys in the Arizona Cardinals like game store. I was like, that kind of puts like an exclamation point. I'm like, no one expected this to happen, and he's like in every game he's been
I
playing
wonder
well.
what this team is going to look like when Kyler
like,
comes back.
6
Because
carries
the way
for
that they've been
55
playing
yards
makes me
for Josh
think.
Dobbs.
I thought that, if we get to like week 8 and the Cardinals are 1-6, 0-7, and they just look flat, maybe Kyler doesn't come back this year. I think Kyler's coming back to play for this team, and I'm fascinated to see how they look.
So I heard about this from one of the fantasy podcasts I listened to. So the head coach of the Cardinals mentioned that they might have him because with the pup, because Murray's on the pup, and with the pup, you still have 21 days in order to be an activated player. So they might just stretch it out for the whole 7 weeks, and then from there, have him play in week 8,
Hey,
whatever that is for them. So he
can
probably will be seeing
the
Josh
GM
Dobbs
of the
for
Arizona Cardinals
at least half the season.
be the GM for the Jets, just to find a quarterback out of the middle of nowhere that can make choices and do things from time to time. Tennessee, they signed him off the street because they were like, Malik Willis looks horrible.
Who was Dobbs with
We need to
last
sign
year?
someone
Wasn't it,
that literally
the
has never
Colts?
picked up the playbook and have him start
That's what
this
it was,
week.
Tennessee,
Which,
that's where
by
it
the
was.
way, Robert
Yeah.
Saleh, take notes. You can do that. Trevor Siemian can still play on Sunday Night Football. You just have to open up your mind to that situation. And Josh Dobbs, I think he played on like a Thursday night, so we had even less time. And he played well. I think they like won the game. Like they kind of faded down the stretch because everyone else was hurt. But Josh Dobbs,
played well.
The guy's a fighter. I mean, he
was
barely
close.
beat App State in college. I went to App State, for those of you who don't know, and they played Tennessee when Tennessee was very highly ranked in Josh Dobbs last year there. And they won in like double overtime. And Josh Dobbs had a fumble in overtime that if App had just picked it up, they would have won the game. But Dobbs found a way to pick it up himself and walk into the end zone. And so I've always kind of had a love-hate relationship with Dobbs, but he's playing well. He certainly looked better than Dak Prescott out there. Dak has been unimpressive so far this season outside of the Jets game, which is so weird. Because that's by far the best defense that they've played. Maybe the Cowboys just play up to their talent or play up to the opposition. I don't know. Either way, it's strange. And my takeaway from this
Yeah.
game was more maybe we can just never trust the Cowboys than anything else. Because this always seems to happen. And then Trayvon Diggs tore his ACL, which is a huge loss. And it's not even a loss that really, I don't want to say mattered in this game, but the Cardinals don't have like a number one receiver that you're like, all right, we got to line up against him. They don't have that. I mean, Hollywood Brown, that's not really the guy. But like Terry McLaurin,
Yeah, I think
AJ
they
Brown,
only
you get in the
Probably
playoffs,
would.
someone like Debo Samuel. What?
I do love him though.
I mean, Stephon Gilmore is there, but having Stephon Gilmore at the age that he's at as your number two guy, it's kind of what you want. He's a really strong number two corner that doesn't have to hang with the AJ Brown to the world, but now he does. And now you're going to have what Jordan Lewis or Deron Bland on Devontae Smith, and you feel a lot less confident in them in that role than you did in the depth role or the nickel role that they were in before. So it's a bigger injury than people might think. Just because they have talent there.
So here's one. So I'm one thing that I was interested in. I'm looking through their play-by-play on ESPN. Is that majority of their drives were decently length too for the Cowboys. They didn't really capitalize. No, like the first one went 3 and out, and which does suck. But they went 10 plays for 44 yards. They got 3 points out of that one. 13 plays, got the touchdown. 6 plays, okay, punted though, and then end the quarter. So we only had 4 possessions the first half, and then again, field goal after 13 plays, 8 plays down on downs, 12 plays, another field goal, and then 13 plays they lost with the interception. Like, because that was one thing that I was intrigued by. That they
couldn't
were
get it in
9
the
for
end
16
zone.
on third
They only
down.
had 1 touchdown all game. They kicked 3
Right.
field goals.
But they still couldn't get it done when it actually came to scoring. Yeah.
And that's kind of something that showed a little bit against the Jets too, because
And that's
they went in the
definitely
red
a
zone
concerning
and
aspect
that
for them.
awful roughing the passer penalty that should have never been called. There was a lot of Brandon Aubrey in that game, and he's been kicking a lot of field goals for them. Now, not as much against the Giants because they got a lot of defense and special teams help, but I'm curious as to Dak Prescott and moving forward, what the pass game, because CeeDee Lamb had less than 60 yards. Brandon Cooks has really yet to get going for Dallas so far. Their offensive line's been solid, but they've been injured a lot, and they haven't played apart from the Jets, who I still can't figure out why the Jets can't get pressure on anybody except for Josh Allen. They haven't played, like the Cardinals don't have any big threats defensively. How are they going to do against Judon and the Patriots? And then the 49ers will be a huge test for them on Sunday Night Football in a few weeks.
I don't see them taking on the 49ers.
And it's a road game.
I think the 49ers
I think the 49ers will win that game. They play the next 5 games for them are Patriots, at 49ers, at Chargers, versus Rams, at Eagles.
Yeah,
so they could pick up 2, maybe even 3 losses in that stretch. So the Cowboys' stock might be sinking a little bit. Maybe we're just overreacting to 1 week, a disappointing game, but it was a very disappointing game because they were 2 touchdown favorites on the road and went ahead and lost that game by double digits. That's all I have to say about week 3.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah, that Monday night doubleheader was just
nothing really
bland.
much. Like the only games we didn't mention, Eagles, they did their job against the Buccaneers.
Lions looked good, man. And another week of me saying Desmond Ritter's just not
Like
the
in them
guy in
Lions, though,
Atlanta.
I'll say that.
He's just not. They're gonna be looking for. I think they go to Taylor Heineke before too long.
Yeah,
And I think
no,
Taylor
they need
Heineke will be
someone else.
solid. That's their backup. So
Then we had the
I think the Saints.
and the Saints choking. That was that
It
one.
was a
That was the other
strange game.
big storyline too, because
You should be able to hold on to that lead.
I know, Carr got hurt. I
Yeah.
get that, but like still,
I
like
can't
up 17 and you give up.
I can't get a
18
read on
fourth quarter
Jordan Love
points.
just yet. I want to love
No.
him,
And without an Aaron
no pun
Jones
intended,
Packers team,
but
too.
he's very inaccurate. He's just like a hair away on a lot of these touch passes that he's trying to make down the field. And sometimes that gets fixed, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm curious to see where we're at 6, 7, 8 weeks from now. Yeah, that Thursday night game is going to be very fun. I'm excited to watch that. Although I think the Lions win.
I think the Lions would be a good
Because
matchup for that. I think the Lions would be a good matchup for that.
The Lions are definitely my pick
That's
in the
gonna be very
NFC
fun.
South, and I've been high on them in that
I think they are a
NFC
favorite
South
right
favorite
now.
role for quite a while now. I'm buying all the Lions stock. That's true.
North, not South. But it's been the thing is, like, with Love is like you play the Bears the first game, which they're not really passing much.
They are.
Like the Bears were being crappy. The Falcons game was Falcons D might be something, at least in my opinion they do. And then you have a Saints D, which is good. So I think the Lions, and then the Raiders are good matches.
He's
Actually,
one
get
of
a
the
good
quarterbacks
barometer on
that
how good Love is.
I'm watching with a closer eye this year because we know so little about him, even though he's been in the league for 4 years. He obviously hasn't had the chance to play, and a lot of these guys he's throwing to are much younger guys as well. So the Packers are a fun team right now. They have a good offensive line, they have solid defensive players. It's a matter of if this team that is so young and full of inexperience, they're successful right now, do they hit that wall that comes for a lot of these teams with younger guys that they get off to a hot start and then they just kind of fade away, and then they learn how to win year 2, year 3. All right, well, I think that's gonna about wrap it up for the weekly recess, guys. Another fun week talking about football. I'm looking forward to seeing what week 4 gives us to talk about. I would love to talk about a spicy Jets upset on Sunday Night Football. Taylor Swift leaving MetLife Stadium in tears. That would be just, that'd be beautiful.
So let's, before we close out, Mitchell, what do you think? What game next week do you think has the highest chance of being a big upset?
A big upset? Okay, define big upset.
What we saw this past week.
So you're saying like
with the Broncos,
like a touchdown plus underdog winning? Okay,
let's go with that.
There are only 3 games so far this week with touchdown plus. That's the Eagles are 8-point favorites against the Commanders in Philly. The Niners are 14-point home favorites to the Cardinals. And the Chiefs are 9.5-point road favorites against the Jets. Of those 3, I'm seeing Cowboys minus 6.5. But
you have Patriots,
either
Cowboys
way,
too.
Of
Cowboys
those, part of me really wants to say Chiefs Jets, just because it's a home game for the Jets, and the defense Maybe if the Jets can run the ball against Kansas City, which Detroit ran the ball on Kansas City in week 1. That's something that they were able to do. So if the Jets can run the ball, maybe they'll be in that game.
Okay.
But the Commanders, if they can maybe force some turnovers on Jalen Hurts, he's had a. I haven't been impressed with Hurts so far this year. He can be had. They're 3-0, which is what matters. They've got a fantastic offensive line, and the defense, especially that defensive front's very good. And I think, you know what? No, I can't take that. Sam Howell's going to get murdered that game. No, I have to. It would be the Jets that I would take in that situation because Sam Howell might get sacked 36 times.
I know they won't cover, but I think Arizona will keep it close.
Mm-hmm.
It would not, at this point, it would not shock me because of the fact that they've been technically in every game so far. I would say week 1. Yeah, they lost 4 against the Commies, the Commanders. For those who don't know, my nickname for them. So they lost 4 against the Commies. They blew it against the Giants, but they still put up points, and they still put up points against the Cowboys. I think that they can keep this game close against the 49ers. They're going to lose by I think they'll lose by 5. But I think they cover the spread.
But San Francisco also had that Thursday night game, so they have some extra
14's
rest.
A lot of points.
Well, we have until next Sunday.
And we do.
I'm interested to see how that one plays out. Hopefully the Jets can
have some
sign.
That would be a season-changing win if Zach Wilson can just perform like a average NFL quarterback and the Jets beat the Chiefs. All your goals are right back where they. All your reasonable goals with Zach Wilson as your quarterback. That once Rodgers went down, it's like, well, maybe if you can play like this, they can still make the playoffs. You beat the Chiefs and you see that kind of performance, you're good to go. That being said, I think Trevor Siemian's playing in Denver next week. So, well, I'd love to see it. All right. Well, for Connor VanDemark and Tommy Grant, I'm Mitchell Lea signing off. Have a fantastic week 4 watching the NFL, and you've been listening to the Jersey Nerds Weekly Recess.
Have a good night.
See ya.